with your co-host,
Santi Hernandez.
and today we'll be talking with a special guest named Sally Newsom. I'm very excited to have our guest here in person. Sally, would you please introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Sally Newson, and I'm the executive director of Wellify Teen, which is a nonprofit that I started about 4 years ago, and it's dedicated to improving the mental health outcomes of primarily Marin County teens.
When I heard your last name, I was wondering if you're like related to...
Everybody asks that. Everybody
Yeah.
asks that. I know them. They're friendly with them. However, their last name ends in an M.
Oh.
I'm Newson with an N.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. No relation.
Oh. Well, that's really cool that you know them.
Yeah,
for sure.
they're wonderful. Jennifer Newsom, she's such a strong mental health advocate. So she does some great
see.
work.
I'm like catching up. Who's Newsom? Sorry.
So Gavin Newsom, our
The
governor of California.
California.
Oh, blanking. Oh, okay. Yeah. I got you.
Right.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
So to start with an icebreaker question, what is your favorite hobby that supports your mental health, like positively?
You know, I've got to say it is running.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
almost every day I try to get out and get fresh air, whether it's walking, running, or there's these stairs near my house, and I'll go up and down the stairs. It makes me feel so good, and a lot of times I'll stop at the local coffee place and I'll sit outside like next to the water, and I'll drink my oat milk latte and think about the day and think about what I'm grateful for, and then get all caffeinated up, and then I'm ready to run, and it feels great.
That's good. What about you, Santi?
I like to work out.
Yeah.
I think that for me has been one of my favorite things that now it's become so part of me that if I don't work out, I feel weird because it's my little break
Yeah.
from everything, and it helps me have a fresh mind and it allows me to perform even better versus when I don't work out and I'm constantly working or in whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
I feel like that has a big part in how I feel,
Right.
and it plays a big part on my mental health as well.
It feels so
yeah.
good. Plus, I have to have my music on.
Oh, that's
Are you the same way?
yes.
Like, I can't do it without my music, blaring on my AirPods. So
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I've been working more consistently and like working out. And I definitely see the difference like when you're not working out consistently and when you are.
Right.
I feel like sometimes I get tired of studying, and then once I work out, it's like my little break to like continue studying the rest of the day, and I don't feel like sluggish if I don't work out. So like, I don't know, it just gives me a boost of energy, even though like I get tired of working out, like I get sore, but it feels good. And I definitely feel like it does like impact your mental health for sure.
absolutely. I would say, if there's one thing you can do to really help your mental health, it's that, whether just get outside. First, get outside, but also just walk or just any form of exercise. It makes huge difference.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think, just to add on what you said, I think today, especially on social media, a lot of people have the mindset of working out to have like a very thin body. But I think to me, it's been so different, and it has been on how good it's for me, for my mind, for my body. So when you have that mindset, you enjoy your workouts
Right.
a lot more. And like you said, just going outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the health benefits are kind of like an add-on for me, but number one is just what a way to start the day, and it rejuvenates me and it energizes me throughout the day, like you said.
So tell me about your nonprofit, Wellify Teen.
Yeah, so Wellify Teen, I think the best way to maybe start this long conversation that we're going to have
For sure.
is, first off, I'm just going to tell it like it is. So I'm going to tell you my story, why I started Wellify Teen, and it's I'm not going to filter it too much.
Yeah.
So I have 2 children. You met my son Andrew, who's in the other room, and then my daughter. And when she was about 13, she started showing what I would later find out were the first signs of a mental illness. And she was lots of different symptoms that were really red flags. She was isolating all the time. She kind of separated herself from the family. She was doing incredibly impulsive things, taking extreme risks. And, it was a scary time. She was, and here's that, like, total transparency. She was self-harming. I found out she was self-harming. But what really opened my eyes the most was one day she came down and she said, "I need to talk to you." And I said, "Okay." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to actually talk to me? Okay, this must be big." Yeah. And she said, "I want to hurt myself. I want to take risks. Like, I want to feel like I'm, up somewhere high and that I can just float off." And so basically she was telling me that she was highly suicidal. And so I said, Mama Bear just like went into action. And I said, "Okay, first off, do you need to go to, get some help, like immediately, like right now?" She said, "No." So I said, "Okay, I'm going to, I feel like help save her life."
Yeah.
And so, try to get, psychiatric appointments and therapy and, but also, diagnosis. Like, what is, this is serious stuff. What is actually going on here? So, so throughout this time, it was a nightmare for our whole little family. I've been divorced for a long time, so it was just, the 3 of us. And it was very difficult to actually get her the help that she needed. So, and I'll, maybe get more into that, but basically, I'm a spiritual person, and I knew what would happen if, with the sustained stress that our family was going through, it's bad news. People get sick, and I was like, I'm not going to go there. We're not going to be doing this. And so it was like, God help us all get through this alive. And I made a vow. I promise I will help other families to navigate this world of mental illness, and help other parents know where to go and how to get help for their teens.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it's very hard, especially with an audience, but I appreciate it because there's a lot of people out there who also need the help and also have been through that situation, and they know that they're not alone. And I'm very admired that you're able to create a nonprofit because of what was going on, and that takes a lot of strength to do, for sure. Right. Do you have any comments?
I thank you so much for sharing. I think that's for any parent and family member hearing someone that you love so much tell you straight up, I don't want to be here and I'm hurting myself.
Yes,
is so hard. I've shared my side on the story of suicide here too, that I've unfortunately had to witness a lot of friends who committed suicide, and it's the worst thing that I would never wish it on anyone, because like you said, it's so hard to understand. And the fact that she reached out to you is so powerful, and it must have been very hard for her, because as a teenager, it's so hard to know how to deal with your emotions. It's not something that we're taught at school, or even, I wouldn't say we blame our parents, because our parents they didn't even know what mental health is back then. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't know. So just hearing the origin of the nonprofit that you started, I can understand your passion with this.
Right.
And your desire to help other families, because you witnessed that too, right? You helping your daughter. And thank you so much. Like I said, it's really hard sometimes to talk about that, because it's the people you love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So really the mission of Wellify Team is, so just kind of going back to, why I started it, is I suspected that my daughter had serious mental illness. And so not only were there all the red flags, there was a genetic disposition. I learned throughout that process that I have relatives who are bipolar. And so I would, tell the psychiatrist, take a look at this. Nobody wanted to diagnose her. And I even set up an assessment with this one psychologist in Marin. And, before they started, he said, well, what do you think it is? And I said, well, I think there's, a good chance that it's bipolar. It, does run in my family. I had been doing all this research myself, trying to figure out what it was. And I said, I think, it could possibly be borderline personality disorder. I'm not sure. And his response was, why would you want to put such an ugly label on such a beautiful girl? I was like, oh my gosh. So a series of events happened. So finally, when she was 16, she was formally diagnosed with bipolar, cannabis use disorder, which we'll talk about, and and also borderline tendencies. So finding out the correct diagnosis as early as possible, basically that's where you have the lifesaver coming into play. So we know that through science, we know that 9 out of 10 who kill themselves have a diagnosable mental illness at the time of death. And the way that we know this is it's like forensic psychology. They go back and they someone who may be undiagnosed or misdiagnosed, they have a way to figure this out. So this is science. This is from the National Institutes of Health. We know this. So if you have 9 out of 10, then it would make sense to have early identification of who has that serious mental illness. Because once you can accurately diagnose, the correct treatment can begin. And
sorry. When you had your daughter diagnosed, is that when you started your nonprofit, or was this years later?
It was about 2 years later. She had moved to Portland to go to college, and I sold my house, and so I had kind of a little life change myself. And I thought, you know what, now's the time. I'm going to do it now. And I have several different businesses, and so I've always been, so focused on, building my businesses and running my businesses that that when I did this kind of little bit of a life change, I thought, you made a vow, you better you better keep it, and now is probably a good time to start doing that. So once she moved out, then it was easier to focus on
for sure.
on Wellify Team.
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to have that time to focus on her, and then being able to learn from your mistakes or anything like that. Right. Because I know mental illness is a lot to learn about. It's a huge topic. So I feel like it's really nice that you're able to have that time.
Well, there's also a lot of misinformation.
Yeah, that's
so true. Part of why I developed the Wellify for Teens app, which has a screener, is people, everybody's doing this. So they're Googling, okay, what's going on with me? And so they're trying to self-diagnose and they're getting all kinds of misinformation. And so, they might do some quick little screener and, oh, I think I'm this, I think I'm that. Well, so there's more accurate ways to do this.
Before we talk about your Wellify teen app, why did you come up with Wellify?
Yeah, so Wellify, what it means to me is to make well. So it's a verb, to wellify. That's it, to make.
I was like thinking of Spotify because I don't know, like it sounds the same, like the fi, so that's why I thought maybe like she wanted to make it look catchy, but since you're saying it's a word, I see it. Wellify,
Right.
teen.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I am very interested in the. You mentioned your daughter was diagnosed with bipolar and then two other ones. I don't know the two other ones, but just so we have an understanding of the nonprofit, because I have so many other questions.
Yeah.
I do want to ask, which is something very important to us as at least for me, is like as a teen, sometimes you're doing the research on your own or you're seeking out for on your own. And during this time, like some of us work, some of us don't. So what are some free services and programs you offer, or what are the types of service programs that you offer? And just giving kind of an overview, so then when we talk in depth, people have a better understanding of what we're talking about.
Yes. So we have several free programs and services. Everything is free. So it's also geared to low income, and kind of also mid income, because a lot of like on our online resource guide. So if you go to wellifyteen.org, this is an online resource guide that is extensive, and all of the finding help resources listed on there, almost all of them will work on a sliding scale, which means it opens it up. You pay a sliding scale. Basically, you just pay what you can afford, and So
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Since you said there's like a sliding scale, is there a possibility that it can be free services or?
Absolutely. Yes. So most of the services that you'll find on wellifyteen.org are community-based, like North Marin Community Services, or Marin City has fantastic behavioral health services. So those are all free.
And what is in the services?
It depends. It's different. So each of these providers, community-based providers, it's different. So if you need therapy, you can access it through some of these different ones. You can go on the website, and on the website it'll tell you, here's the phone number, here's what their services are, and so you can kind of go through and see what might be the best, for your situation.
Oh.
So from what I'm getting is that you are like a connecting of reminds me of like just basically the models of businesses now, how it's like you're connecting, someone wants something and you provide information to connect them to what they actually need, in a way, which I think is so amazing to have. Like you said previously, there's so much information about mental health, but there is so much misinformation out there.
Yes.
So having a place that knows these other organizations and where you could guide them is very important, because I think it's hard to just know which one is correct. And like you said previously as well, is that when you Google and you start kind of saying, oh, I have that, So it's kind of sometimes it messes with your head too. So about the screening, you mentioned the screening too, which I don't know if I can ask that is it's on the website. There is this part where it says screening, but you also mentioned that you do have a Wellify for Teen app, and is that included too in that?
Yeah.
Can you explain more about it? Just curiosity.
Let me go. So we have all these different services and programs. So number one, the first that I developed was the wellifyteen.org, the online resource guide.
Okay.
And this was originally geared to parents in Marin County.
Okay.
And it's geared to ask or answer the question, is this typical teen behavior or could this be something more serious? So on the website, the parents can take a screener to determine if possibly their teen has red flags for a more serious mental health condition. So that's one part. Then they can go to the learning section, which outlines there's 12 different mental health conditions more related to teens that you can learn about through like videos. There's articles. So versus like Googling, what is this? This is all like the real deal. And then, so let's say you read about bipolar disorder. Then where do you go? If you're in Marin County, where do you go for help? And like I said, it's all of the resources are geared to low income. So so you can go on. The Finding Help section has crisis help. Talks about the County of Marin Mobile Response Unit. There is a whole section on suicide prevention. There's teen and family therapy. There's serious mental illness. And then another key section is parent support. So when parents are, trying to help their teens with their mental health, it's difficult and there's not a lot of support out for the parents. So I wanted to provide resources for the parents. Because ultimately then they can better help their teens, by learning about mental illness and mental health conditions and, to support them that way. So that's the online resource guide. So enter the Wellify for Teens app. So when the pandemic hit, we saw this like crisis for, so difficult for teens, mental health, just total crisis. So I thought, well, the wellifyteen.org online resource guide, that's great for the parents, but the teens need help. We need to provide something directly for the teens that we meet them where they are, which is on their phones, 24/7. And so I thought, I'm going to put together an app for Marin County teens. And so it's called Wellify for Teens. So it's you can download it on Apple or Google. And it's Wellify and then the number 4 teens. Of course, everything's free. So with this, one of the first things you can do is a screener. And at a minimum, it takes like 10 minutes. Depending on how you answer, it can go longer. But it's basically the same screener. So if you go to a pediatrician and they hand you an iPad and they say, take this screener for your, to assess your mental health. It's basically the same screener, except you don't have to go to the pediatrician to do this. So from this, you can really get insights into your own mental health, like what's going on. Are there red flags? Are there conditions that I should, be aware of? And when you take it, you instantly get to see the results. And if there are red flags, it'll teach you a little bit about it, like, well, what is this? And how is it treated and such?
I have a question, like, did anyone help you with the screening?
Oh, yeah. Yes. So this is, believe me, I didn't make this up myself. I worked with Dr. Jonathan Shedler, who is the head of the psychiatry department for UCSF. And he actually developed the screener for Kaiser for same thing, for the handing the iPad over. So it's basically very similar to that. So so it's all scientific and evidence-based, and yes.
Just to comment on the website, I know you shared the app later. I didn't know about the app.
Right.
But I did go on to the website, and I put on my notes today to comment on how I appreciated I didn't know it was 12, but I did see that there was you can click on them.
Yeah.
And then I was able to watch videos, and I really like that instead of going on YouTube, and there's so many.
Right.
So having that video specifically on that, let's say bipolar, it I think is very helpful for parents and teens. And I love how the app does the same thing in a way.
So the app actually links back a lot to the website.
Okay.
So, so for example, there's the Get Enlightened button, and you want to learn about the different conditions. It's linking back to the Wellify Teen website.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. Because I think I went to the learning tab, and that's where it listed all the different conditions and how it just educated you more about it, which I appreciate. Because, like I said, I think that you can get misguided at times.
Right, right.
What else is on the app besides the screening?
Okay, so so it's a free mental health support 24/7. We've got the quick screener for insights into your mental health. Then there are 4 different self-care tools. So it's like a self-care toolkit. And this is designed to help reduce stress, anxiety, and depression. And these, one of them, I don't know if you've heard of DBT. No. Dialectic behavioral therapy.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Everyone should know about DBT.
DBT.
So basically it's, have you heard of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy?
No.
So these are the types of modalities that if you go to a therapist, they might use to help you through your problems.
Okay.
So DBT is it's a way to you learn skills. It's skill based. So you learn skills about how to regulate emotions, how to cope with fears and anxiety, and then also to learn like resilience, like how do I get myself through this situation. And so DBT it's a lifesaver. I mean, it's seriously a lifesaver. I would love, like, every teen should learn these skills. And so within the app, you actually download another app for this, but for free, you can learn the skills on your own time, right on your phone.
Is there like scenarios on learning how to do the skills, or how's that?
Well, there's also so of the 4, we call them digital therapeutic tools. So there's DBT, there's CBT, there's ACT, and then there's motivational interview. So this is one where you kind of talk to yourself and get feedback and
like you record yourself, or
no. Each one is different. I would just say download them. Go on the app, and then within the app you can swipe right, and you can see what you'll be learning, what the tool is all about, and then if you're interested in it, then you just download it for free and use those.
It sounds really cool, especially a toolkit. because I feel like you mentioned before, like the pandemic, I feel like a lot of people, like their mental health was not good, because we were all isolated and that wasn't that good. Yeah, and it was really hard just for everyone.
It's really important to, one of the big problems that we have in our mental health society now is there's a shortage of clinicians, of therapists. So actually in the year 2025, we're supposed to have a shortage nationally of like 200,000 therapists and clinicians.
Really?
So it's so difficult to access care. Even in Marin, you're looking at 3 months, and there's such a high demand. Everybody needs to get in, and they are looking for help, but there's only so many therapists and clinicians to go around, and it's causing these huge waits, right? So one of the solutions to that is for more mild symptoms, let's give you the self-care tools. And this is really kind of the wave of the future. I'm actually working on, I shouldn't say this anyway, I'm working on a metaverse AI mental health company. So, working on diagnosis and self-care. You're going to find in the future, not too near or the near future, a lot of your care is probably going to be not in person and, digital.
Yeah.
Or metaverse.
No, I think we saw that a lot with the pandemic. Everything, even like doctor's appointments, before you could go, like they would say, we'll have a video call and see if you actually need to come in.
Right.
Which I thought was interesting. But having, support in your pocket, I think is very helpful for a teen. Sometimes teens don't like to show what they're going through at times. Right. So having that, I think, at a click, swipe, it's very good to just educate yourself on there.
Right.
And I do want to ask too, like, are you partnering with the schools on the Wellify app, the Wellify for Teens app currently?
Let me answer that in a second. I just wanted to add.
Yeah, go ahead.
This app is continuously improving. And so the next iteration, we're adding really cool mindfulness and meditation and sleep tools within the app.
Oh, that's cool.
So let's say you're feeling like super stressed. You just need to chill. You can do it immediately right there on your phone. So that's to come.
Okay.
And I just want to step
good.
in. But you have a whole team working on this app, right? Or is it just you?
So I partner. So like the digital therapeutic tools, that comes from a company called Resilience in San Francisco. Yes. So it's a collaborative effort of bringing in all these experts in their fields and bringing it all together. Right.
That's so cool. I didn't want to step in, but I just wanted to.
No, yeah, I was going to ask that after just to kind of clarify, but it's okay. Go ahead.
So as far as the schools, no. The answer is no. Not from a lack of trying. For the past, 4 years since I started Wellify Teen, I've been offering all of these free services and programs to like Marin County Office of Education and Tam Union High School District. And for whatever reason, it has not been something that they've wanted to promote or tell their students about. So I'm working hard on that. And I'm hoping that, students tell your wellness centers, check out this Wellify for Teens app. This is phenomenal.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. Yeah. Right now, we're gonna just take a quick break from all this good information. I'm really excited to talk more about, your nonprofit organization.
Sure.
But now we'll be playing a song by Ismael Laura. It's called Pa Delante.
This society try to crush my spirit, but my chicano so don't fall. I'm 100 with it, mi gente dice al 100, puro pa' adelante, pa' atrás a más, que ese hueco en vivo ya verás. Vamos, vamos, pa' adelante, vamos, vamos, pa' adelante, vamos, vamos, pa' adelante, vamos, vamos, yeah. So who's the victor? You Roman silver, the 30 coins of Judas. I'm at dead gold, abundance of wealth that we've never told. I'm the mind alliance, youngest defiance, storm of stars and all the science. Duality of the serpent, don't misinterpret. I'm fine wisdom, age in the temple of the serpent. I'm the flaminess of chorus poems, wisdom that hits the soul. Nobility, we still afford to these hard to fight every day. We born to prove victory, not to feign decay. I'm good at Pachá princess, Erentin on her horse, ready for war. We don't die, we regenerate. Victory, our fate. On a cool breeze, I move with ease. My intellect stays strapped. I embrace my heritage, the brown, white, and the black. I got my mind on my studies, and my studies on my mind, ready to hit back with facts. Blackjack. So what's the meaning? Historical victory from the beginning.
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed that music from Ismael Laura. Hopefully we have him back on the studio in person.
Is he local?
Yeah, he is local.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's really good music. I personally love it too. But going back to your nonprofit organization, in the beginning you mentioned about your daughter having bipolar disorder, and then I think you said cannabis
Cannabis use disorder.
And I see that you're going to be working on a short film about cannabis use.
Mm-hmm.
What is that about?
Okay. So almost nobody knows what cannabis use disorder is.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, so many people, I know most teens, everyone's smoking weed, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the degree of when it becomes, it's the amount of use.
Addictive, yeah.
So what a lot of people don't know is, so a lot of teens, they're self-medicating with cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
And, thinking, this is my medicine. It makes me feel better. It helps my anxiety. It helps my depression. Does it sound familiar?
Yes.
When in actuality, it can make it much worse.
Mm-hmm.
So it can actually increase suicidality. So many people, they think, I'm going to, it'll calm me down, my anxiety. Over time, when you're doing smoking a lot, it's going to make it worse.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also psychosis. So not too long ago, a parent called and said, "My gosh, my child was just diagnosed as schizophrenic,"
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, And so I asked all these questions, and then I said, "How much weed is he smoking?" And she was like, "Oh, no, he wouldn't do that. He's a good boy. He would never do that." So I keep asking, "Well, what about this drug? This drug?" No. Long story short, because what happens is when you're smoking a great deal, it can actually cause psychosis. So psychosis can look like schizophrenia, and it can look like like a mental health break.
Can you clarify what is schizophrenia, or like the behaviors of it?
Right. So it's typically when you're detached from reality.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes with schizophrenia, sometimes you hear voices. Sometimes you become extremely paranoid that,
Mm-hmm.
People are after you. And it's a really very difficult, very serious mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
But, just a quick side note, most serious mental illnesses are highly treatable. And that's why, it's so important to get that correct diagnosis as soon as possible, because a lot of it is treatable through medication, and and also through other forms, DBT and therapy and all of that. But primarily, that medication is really important.
And just to go back to our original question, what are you working on with the short film?
Yeah, so I think not just in Marin, but cannabis use there's so little known about it. So, you have all these teens, thinking that it's, helping them, when in actuality it's harming, and it's making their mental health way, way worse. So I thought, we've got to tell people and enlighten and let them know that, this is what's going on with, maybe that anxiety or a depression. Maybe it's being caused by, a great deal of use of cannabis. So it's to educate, but to educate in an engaging and interesting way. So it's going to be geared to teens, and hopefully sometime it'll be in the high schools, and you can, really learn about the effects of cannabis use. But go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say I'm with you on that, just because I do have friends where I notice that they're going through, or not friends necessarily, but people that I grew up with that they were childhood, now we've been drifting apart. But I've noticed that for a lot of them, they're going through something emotionally or mentally. And I often ask the question, or why do you smoke?
Yeah.
And their response is always, oh, it just makes me feel good. Right. Or like you mentioned, it just clears my head and pauses. Mm-hmm. But one of the biggest things I go back to is you're just basically covering something.
It's covering a wound.
I was thinking of that in my head.
Right?
It's I don't know how, I think we're on the same page, where it's if you cut yourself, you just watch it bleed or something like that, right? Or something similar like that, where it relates to it kind of in a metaphoric way, mm-hmm. of rather than
stitching the wound, you covering it. I don't know,
yeah.
In the long run, it's not gonna help you. At least for my opinion, and I think you've shown it through clinically how it can affect mental illness. Mm-hmm.
I'm with you on that, because it does happen to teens, and especially, again, I bring social media and media in general so much because it plays a big role in how we are taking things in, movies, mm-hmm. music.
Yeah.
And, scrolling on Instagram, TikTok, you see a lot of people, and it just becomes a cool thing. And in reality, I think it plays a big role in how you're feeling. I think,
huge
for me, weed, it's used very, there's so many uses medically to use that, not just smoking, but just between us. I know people who make it as
cookies? Oh, cream.
Oh,
cream,
mm-hmm.
But let's say if your muscle aches, they would use that to relax the muscle.
Right.
And it's used for important health issues. Mm-hmm. And so the lack of information and the lack of not really talking about the cause and effect of these is very important for teens, I think. And like you said, it's just now today it's very popularized, it's normal, it's okay, which I mean everybody on their own, but it's also important to point that out because it can add onto your mental health rather than help you in a way. I think it has to be a balance, and like you said, overuse is a huge thing.
And I was kind of blanking out earlier, but when I said the wound, I was thinking that some people already have a mental health I wouldn't say illness, but they're struggling mental health, mentally.
Let's say masking it.
Yeah, it's masking.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
Some people have issues with their parents, and they use weed just to like so they can just get distracted from like the problems that they have. And I feel like it can make it worse, you know what I'm saying? Like masking it, like you said.
And what a lot of people don't know is the earlier you start, the more it actually like changes the chemistry of your brain. It can actually lower your IQ. So the earlier you start, the more you smoke. They've done research on this. It can lower your IQ, and it does not. It's not like if you stop, then it'll come back. It's permanent. So, there's things like that through the film would love to just, provide correct information in a really interesting way. I'm hoping to get like some really great celebrity that, teens love. And so if anyone has any suggestions, send them over.
That'd be cool.
I did have a question. I know that as a teenager, your emotions and figuring out who you are plays a big role in sometimes why we're like in a weird stage where we want to be alone. But there is something that I've seen where people are misdiagnosed, and you talked about it earlier too. Like someone said, "Oh, my kid had this," and you're like, "Oh, what about this?"
Right.
I do have, when we talk about mental health, illness specifically, we talk like my head goes to ADHD, bipolar, which those are serious.
That's right.
Mental health issues and problems that you need to know how to live with, because if you don't, it's really hard.
Right.
But then there are other teenagers, like Annalie mentioned, that currently have things going on with their family and they go into a depression. So it's a bit different in my head, at least, or in my perspective. So I have a hard time sometimes understanding those two, because I think that there's a very different, like sometimes I remember as a teenager that I had weird emotions. Sometimes I was sad, sometimes I was mad, and I think it was just because we're never taught about our emotions.
Right.
And so it's really hard to see that. And so as a parent, I think the screening is so helpful to know, like, if your child maybe is just going through the teenage phase, which is also very important as a parent to understand.
Yes.
It's hard sometimes for parents to understand, like, hey, I really have a problem when parents say this. Oh, but you have everything you need. Like, I didn't have what you have now. And sometimes it's not about what you have, but it's what's about in here and how you're feeling. And I think that's just so important for parents to know too, and to build a good relationship with parent and daughter, or parent and son. It's so important.
Yes. So what's key is, like you were talking about, figuring out, so we have mild symptoms, which is more of like, stressed out about, school or, social or what. So there's mild. What's really important is to determine if there is more of a serious mental illness too. So, for example, with bipolar disorder, so there's so many people are getting prescriptions, for like antidepressants, and I mean it's so many. Well, if someone is actually bipolar, certain antidepressants, within a short amount of time, they can become highly suicidal. And
wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, most people don't know that. I'm talking a short amount of time, like within a couple of days of taking it. So that's why, it's so important to know what's going on, and so that it can be treated correctly.
Yeah, I've seen someone post on, like, this was like a family YouTube channel, and sadly the husband was taking antidepressants, and then he suicided himself.
Yeah.
And ever since that, I was like very cautious about antidepressants, because that does take an effect on people, just like drugs in general.
Right.
You have to be really careful of like the amount you take, because it can like affect you mentally.
Yeah.
And I think for me, one of the things that I also struggle with is the idea of medication. Because to me, it's I don't want to take anything unless I know what's wrong, like going really deep and figuring if I can do things before I take medication.
Yes.
Because I do have a family member where he started taking medication, and instead of him being better, it made him worse.
And this happens all the time.
I can imagine. So
People
it's a
are
bit.
being misprescribed and taking the wrong medication, and the effects are horrible. Especially, my guess. I don't know this factually, but the teen suicide that we have. If you look at if there was a change in medication or a new medication, it's serious stuff.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I had a family member who I know he was put into a clinical place, and they closed them off, and that made it even worse.
Oh yeah.
So I think the main message that I got from all of this is really finding credible resources and information to find what works for you, not everyone, my bad, for everyone. I think as a parent, understanding that as a teenager, your child will go through a change, and not just hormonal, and just the idea too of figuring out what they like, what they don't like. And sometimes you start growing up wanting your own space, and so just for parents to always be aware of what's happening with their child, with their teen, to know then if something, that really seems off.
Right.
And doing a screening, finding information, and taking them to the right place. I know for low-income families, this isn't talked very often, and sometimes that idea of everything is so expensive. And so parents don't seek for help.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
I left off one of the most important services that we offer, it's called For Help.
Okay.
So any teen in Marin County who is at high risk for a diagnosable mental illness, we have a clinical assessment that we will do for free and immediately. So no 3-month wait. And the reason and we have a fantastic clinical director, Dr. Jody New-Delman, who performs this is the full assessment. So this is the same thing if you had to pay out of pocket. You're looking at like $3,000 to $5,000 to have to pay for this really intensive professional clinical assessment that you'll get the correct diagnosis so that you can get the correct treatment.
And I was thinking, here in California, there's a lot of people who speak Spanish, and most of them are low income. So I was wondering, is there any resources offered for people who speak Spanish?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we totally forgot to ask that, which is so important. What languages is the information provided in?
Right. So with the Wellify for Teens app, you go on, click on the screener. The first question is going to be what language? English, Spanish.
Okay, that's nice.
So it's all in Spanish.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm hoping to. I've had many requests to create the wellifyteen.org website into Spanish, and that's on the list. But yes, absolutely.
That's really nice.
Also, with the free clinical assessments, we have kind of a partnership with an organization who has 9 bilingual therapists, and so if a family has speaks Spanish or doesn't speak English, we can still see them and we can still service them.
Okay. That sounds very interesting to have all of that. I think is very important for both English and Spanish.
Right.
I know my family, we Latinos, so Spanish is our main language. And when my cousin was going through that, I mean, everything was in English. So it was really hard for them. But the more we push for more languages, I heard this once, and it's depression, mental health doesn't have a race, gender.
No,
grabs anyone who. So
well, and it's everyone.
Yeah, so it's important to have languages.
So seriously, like when I started Wellify Teen, and I would tell people, what it was, almost every single person would say, "Oh, my mother's bipolar," or my brother is going through this, or my child is going through this. Seriously, everyone. And it knows no income difference.
Yes.
It knows no, it's just everyone. Yeah. And it's so much more, I think a lot of people think that they're kind of alone and not too many other people are going through this. Oh my gosh, almost everyone has some kind of, mental health issue or condition that they're dealing with. If not themselves, then someone very close to them, because I think the stats now, it used to be 1 in 5 in the United States has like a mental health condition. I think it's now like 2 out of 5. So the chances are there's going to be someone in your family. There's going to be, close friends. It's so prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what advice do you have for teens or parents who are going through a similar situation that you went through?
I think if there is the suspect of a potential serious mental illness, very first thing is you find out. So, serious mental illness is more defined by the duration of the symptoms and the intensity of the symptoms. So, if someone is, feeling depressed for a day or two, that's probably going to be a mild condition. But if this goes on for 2 weeks or more, you need to check it out. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's good advice too, because 2 weeks is a long time.
Right.
And there is people, at least for me too, like sometimes I need like a break from just everything, and I like to have my own time, and that usually does like take 2 or less than 2 days.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a difference
Right.
after 2 weeks.
And I also really suggest, for whether it's mild or more serious, DBT, dialectic behavioral therapy, it's amazing. It's skills that everyone should know. And even as a parent, I suggest it to the parents, because it teaches you kind of like how to respond, what to say, what not to say, and, to keep that, bond, and to be able to keep the communication headed the right way with a teen who's struggling with their mental health.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any questions?
Well, yeah, you mentioned of like the right and wrong. We don't have enough time anymore, but the right and wrong, like just there are certain things that you sometimes want to avoid when you're talking to a specific person going through something, because you can make it worse. And sometimes not knowing that is very crucial. I've gone through that where I'm like, oh, I did not know that that's not what I was supposed to say, that I could have worded it this way.
Oh,
and it would have
we've all done that.
been very, very helpful.
Yes.
For me is, do you want to say where they can access the app and the website before we end?
Yes. So with the Wellify for Teens app, you can download it for free. Go to the Apple Store or Google Store. So it's Wellify, Wellify, the number 4, Teens. And then the online resource guide, which it's geared to parents, but teens, absolutely, it's that same learning and resources, where to go in Marin, is just at wellifyteen.org. Now, if anyone, if you take the screener from the app and it's showing that there are red flags for a serious mental illness, it will guide you to, say, we think that you should explore this more and find out what's going on. And there you can find how to access Wellify Teen for the free assessment. And then it'll also say, or, contact the access line of the County of Marin's Behavioral Health. So that's in there.
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just want to say some last words that I'm very, I don't know. You give me a lot of encouragement to work with what I have my vision in, and I feel like a lot of teens, they have a lot of people to look up to, and I think one of them is you, because people like you are the ones that make a change for the youth, for the generation that will get better. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's bad stuff in the world where it causes generational trauma, but there's people like you who make a difference, and it improves our generation. So it's really powerful and amazing to have you here.
And before we end, I might take a little bit more time. Thank you so much for being on here and sharing your story and all of this. I think is great. I am going to download the app and explore myself. That way I can, suggest better and give people where to guide them. A lot of the things you said were free. And as a nonprofit too, we understand that to allow that to happen, it takes a group of people. It takes a lot of support from other people, which is why I want to ask you, how can the audience support Wellify for teens? How can we support this via donation or any stuff like that?
So luckily, Wellify Teen is actually very well funded. We work with the Marin Community Foundation. There's a few different foundation families, funds, the Fullertons, Jennifer Maxwell. And so we're good on money. But what I would love the audience to do is download the app. You can really support Wellify Teen by downloading the app, but then tell others, tell your friends, tell your school, your friend, just everyone, just because I really appreciate you having me on here, because this is the perfect way to spread the word. So at this point, it's all about let's spread the word that this app exists, that these programs exist. And so that's what the audience can do. Tell everybody.
Thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you guys for watching. We'll hope to see you next Friday.